Okay. Taking refuge in generating bodhicitta. Sangye chedang sokye chognam la jangchu bardu dagni kyatsu chi daki jinso ki pe sonam ki rola penchir sangye drupar sho Sangye chedang soki chognam la Jangchu bardu dagni kyapsu chi Dagi jinzo gipe sonam ki Rola penchir sangye drupar sho Sangye chedang soki chognam la Jangchu bardu dagni kyapsu chi Dagi tenyen gipe sonam ki Rola penchir sangye drupar shu. All right, here we are. Sorry about that, guys. All right, we're on now four immeasurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And then we go to the seven limb prayer. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the merits of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until samsara ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate the merit created by myself and others to the great enlightenment. And then we'll do the mandala offering. And as we do this, what we're visualizing as our offerings, we're imagining a purified world, where everybody has access to the Dharma, everybody is on the path, everybody is practicing, and so that's what we're looking for. And this is the offering we're making to the beings in front of us, the enlightened beings and highly realized beings. Sajipaki Jukshin Meto Tramri Rablingshi Nidegen Padi Sangye Jingdu Migde Ulwagi Drokun Dakshin La Chepashu Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayam. So after pondering this and looking at the videos that we have, the recordings that we made, and realizing that Geshe Nima doesn't want us to post them, I decided, well, heck, however long it takes, I'm going to transcribe all of it. So this is what I've been doing. So we're going to start with, we didn't have the initial session that he did not get recorded, the very first one. However, what he did was, in the second one, he went over everything he did in the first one and clarified it. So we've got it all here. So I'm just going to go right to this, and hopefully this will help us. Otherwise, what I realized when I was listening to these is that we would lose it all. We would not retain all of this, and so it's very important, I think, that we get it down and are able to study it and practice it, because he gave us lots of practices are in there and meditations. So just before you started, this is from Thursday, January 9th. And he said, before we start teaching he wanted to meditate on the conventional clarity of the mind that he introduced in the first class, the first Sunday class. He said it's very important that we start teaching on the emptiness of the mind and the emptiness of self and other. If we become familiar with this kind of meditation, then we can settle down into the nature of the mind and we can catch the clarity of the mind, which is not that easy to catch because our mind is so busy, filled with all kinds of other stuff, past, present, future, just we know it well. So he says, through examining the mind's clear nature, we can understand the emptiness of the mind itself. And then we can clean up all of the garbage, all of our destructive thoughts in our mind, and we can understand the real nature of self and other, which is a huge topic. And we can understand the real nature of the whole world. So explicitly, what we understand is that each and everything is empty of inherent existence, is empty of any kind of independent self-existence. And indirectly, we connect with the whole world through the practice of compassion and the unconditional love of bodhicitta. He says this is very important. So there are two aspects here. What we're understanding is the emptiness of everything, and then combine that with this was basically the wisdom and compassion wings. And we're combining the two together. So through that realization of the dependent arising nature of everything, we are able to develop this very great compassion and love for other beings. Because we don't lock them into a particular inherently existent state. We realize that they can change. We realize that we can all change. And that's the beauty of this path. So now he talks about mind, form, and something that we've not mentioned before, non-associated phenomena. And there were three things. Well, basically, how does he put it? When we talk about impermanent phenomena or conditioned phenomena, there are three types: mind, form, and non-associated phenomena. A non-associated phenomena is anything that's non-associated with mind or form. So he started with mind, and we've talked about this aspect of it. He said mind itself is not a physical thing, and we've talked a lot about this. Mind is neither physical matter, nor is it anything that's not mind, like the non-associated phenomena. He gave some examples, things like persons, energy, time. These are non-associated phenomena. We tend to think of person, well, the person is me, the person is the being. Well, the person is actually a label that we put on this collection of aggregates. So it's the person is not mind. The person is a label and a concept and a construct, but it's not mind itself. The imprints of our negative karma and positive karmas are also considered to be types of non-associated phenomena.
I'm just going to interrupt. Way back when we learned the translation that we learned for this unassociated phenomena was unassociated oppositional factors. And I like that translation because that word compositional gives you a little tip off that it's about clumping unassociated things together to create a labeled phenomenon.
Right.
Like a person.
Right. I mean, this whole thing is a non-associated phenomenon.
It is, I think, more clarifying.
Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah. And that's something we haven't really talked about.
No,
Yeah. The imprints of our negative karma and positive karmas are also considered to be types of non-associated phenomena because karma is neither physical nor is it mind. Karma is not mind. They're just the imprints on the mental continuum. So, like I said, when we talk about impermanent phenomena or conditioned phenomena, there are three types: mind, form, and non-associated phenomena. All impermanent phenomena are condensed into these three types. Therefore, when we're talking about mind and the mental world, mind is neither form nor non-associated phenomena or non-associated compositional factors.
Yeah, when you do the written, I would recommend including that because we had the benefit of that. I'm just going to go for a minute. We had the benefit of that, using that term back when Geshe Doctor taught us this stuff. And I don't know if you recall, but he did a class where he ran us through the three types of items and, sort of like person, what is it? It was sort of like a
test. No, of course we didn't. Person, what is it? That's a person.
Now 20 years
later. Yeah.
It's very cool. What unassociated compositional factors means is when you take energetic clumps and a label, slap it on and call it Dawn.
Yeah. Slap it on and call it Dawn.
It's an unassociated compositional factor.
Well, I'm energetic.
And I'm just going to say that Geshe Nima is not being a native English speaker, he may have never run across that on the fly. It was just translating best he could, make it as clear as he could in the moment.
We don't know. Yeah. All right. Now he talked about the nature of the mind. The nature of the mind is just clarity and knowing. It's also, you will hear, the nature of the mind is clear and luminous, or clarity and awareness. There's the different ways that they say it. But he's saying clarity and knowing. Clarity refers to the nature of the mind which lacks physicality or form. So remember, he's preparing us for a meditation on the mind. So he's telling us what the clarity of the mind is. The clarity of the mind lacks physicality or form. It's the nature of the mind that lacks physicality or form. So whenever we're talking about the mind, there are two characteristics. One characteristic is clarity. The mind is clear. The other characteristic is knowing. The mind knows things. The mind is aware. I like awareness as well. Because sometimes when we say know, we can think that it's talking about conceptual knowing, the conceptual understanding of something, knowledge. But awareness is closer to the point, I think. But they use both. They use clarity and knowing and clarity and awareness. Simply an awareness of experience. So he says knowing, this awareness, refers to the mind's function. What is the function of the mind? The function of the mind is to be aware. Simply. To know stuff. To be aware of stuff. Combined together, clarity, so knowing is the function of the mind. Clarity refers to the nature of the mind. So one is a function and one is the nature. The function is to be aware. The nature is that it's clear. It's clear. Combined together, this is what is called mind. So when we're talking about the person rests in the object, but the person is not mind because of its lack of clarity. The person does not have clarity. Person is, like we said, it's a label put on top of all of that, but it does not have clarity. It is a concept. For example, he talks about light or the reflection in a mirror. He says these things have clarity, but they lack knowing. They lack awareness. The mirror is not aware. This light is not aware of anything. Mm-hmm. Mind always possesses these two characteristics, knowing and clarity. When knowing and clarity are combined together, we call this mind. So mind is not like form or physical things. Mind is just experience. When we talk about the conventional nature of the mind, we think of it as clarity or knowing. When we're meditating on the conventional nature of mind, we think of this kind of experience, which is mere awareness and clarity. Because what he's getting us towards, we're going to do a little meditation on the conventional nature of the mind. So what we're aiming for here is mere awareness and clarity. So we meditate on that. Whenever we meditate on the mind, we keep that kind of image or kind of object of awareness and clarity in the mind and meditate on that. Now he goes into how to meditate on the conventional nature of the mind. When we meditate on the conventional nature of the mind, we don't follow our previous misconceived thoughts, past experiences, past activities, past things we've done, past deeds, past events. We don't follow that. Sometimes our past experiences will arise in our mind while we're trying to meditate. And what he's saying is, don't judge it as positive or negative or good or bad or anything like that. Simply be aware of it. Be aware of it. And through repeatedly doing that process, when something comes into our mind, we don't judge it, we're just aware of it. By repeatedly doing this process, finally, all of these past experiences that arise in our mind are going to automatically settle down because we're just not giving it any juice. They'll automatically settle down. He says, like a bubble that rises from the ocean and then settles back into the ocean. The nature of our mind is that if we negate or judge our past experience or past misconceived thoughts, which we do all the time, we'll create those thoughts again and again, more and more and more. Mm-hmm. So as we give these thoughts, these judgments, we give it attention, we create, it rises more and more and more, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. This is really, really important. This is what this meditation is about. The whole mental world has an empty nature. If we're aware of that and leave it as it is, then our mental world will settle down. Our misconceptions and our negativities are created from the empty nature of the mind. When we're aware of that, then they will just settle down into the mind itself. For example, when we follow our past, some past experience, and when we think or we remember, I did this or that yesterday or the day before or in the past, if such thoughts arise in our mind, then just be aware of them. Don't judge them, don't negate them, just be aware of them and keep going. Finally, all the past experience and past conceptual thought will settle down in our mind. This is one aspect of the meditation. Letting the past just appear, don't judge it, let it go. The other aspect has to do with never letting or inviting an unrealistic or a imagined future thought coming into the mind. So we have the past and then also the future. So don't have some kind of thought where you imagine, I will do this, or I can do this, or I can't do this, or I can do this, something like that. If such thoughts arise in the mind, we become aware of them and we never judge, this is good, this is bad. Same drill. We just stay aware of them. We keep going in this way until all the thoughts we imagined about the future, things, objects, people, places we're going to go, all of them settle down into the empty nature of the mind and the mental world. Then finally, we can focus on the present mind, the present moment, which is the mere experience of clarity and knowing. Like water on water, we keep our mind on mind. So if you pour water into water, the whole thing just melts. It's just one thing. So we keep the mind focused on mind itself. We keep our mind focused on this clarity and awareness, letting the past and the future thoughts that come in, just letting them settle down. We call this state of mind objectless. The present moment of mind is objectless. When we calm down the mind, which remembers the past, and the mind which imagines the future, we can actualize the present moment of mental clarity. And, it's important to remember that there is nothing actually but the present moment of experience. So what we could say is, it's an ever-present now. It's an ever-present now that we're always tagging the past onto, or projecting out into the future. And so we're not actually experiencing the ever-present now. We're experiencing the past. We're experiencing the future. We're experiencing how we feel about all that and judging all of that. What we're trying to do in this meditation is just let that go and stay right in the ever-present now of clarity and awareness. We keep our mental focus on that as much as we can. So this is how to meditate on the conventional nature of mind. And remember what conventional means. We studied this with conventional reality and ultimate reality. Ultimate reality, of course, is that everything lacks any kind of independent self-existence. Everything, so the flip side of that is the conventional nature, that everything is a dependent arising. It arises due to causes and conditions, and it's constantly arising. It's constantly changing. It never gets locked and fixed the way we think of things. Never. So it's always, this conventional reality is a continual, ever-present, transforming experience. Continual. So when we're talking about the conventional nature of the mind, this clarity and awareness, it's an ever-present moment that's just moment to moment to moment to moment to moment, depending. It's a dependent arising. The previous moment brings about the present moment, which is the basis for the next present moment. So that this clarity of the mind, if you can get to this state, it's not as if it's some kind of static thing. It's a very uh, ever present, ever alive experience, this clarity and awareness. Okay. So by repeatedly meditating in this way, we can finally experience the real conventional nature of the mind. Through that, we can experience the real nature of the mind, which is the non-dualistic mind itself. And we've talked about this before, and that's pretty huge. We won't get into that right now. And through that, we can experience the joy and peacefulness of the present moment of mind. So he now wants us to meditate on this for 5 minutes. So just do that, just settle down and practice what we just talked about. Just keeping that focus on the present mind. And when past thoughts come in, just be aware of them, let them go, don't judge them, no matter what they are. And same with the future. Here we go. Oops, that was quick. Hello, mister. Sorry, guys. Okay. It's really important that we become familiar with this particular meditation. And Geshe Nima, later on, he is asking us to do it every morning when we wake up, along with another visualization that we'll get to. This particular meditation is one that will take us all the way to a direct realization of emptiness. It's the door to Mahamudra meditation, meditating on the nature of the mind itself. So it's extremely important. And the thing which is I find very helpful about this is it allows us to see what we are normally doing with our mind on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. We are constantly following the thoughts that arise in our mind, and we are judging those. And in many ways, we will judge ourselves. We will judge ourselves either as good or bad, or judge others as good or bad, based on these thoughts that are coming into our mind, because we follow them. Rather than just be aware of them and let them go and don't judge them, we follow them. And this digs us deeper and deeper and deeper into the hole of self-grasping and self-cherishing and the mess that samsara is. So this meditation, although it may seem simple or it may have seemed difficult, to get to a point where you were letting things go, it's an extremely essential meditation for the Buddhist path and the path to enlightenment. And it's wonderful that he has just presented this to us. And it's important that we continue with it, because it's a huge piece of the Dharma practice. Okay. Now he went into the posture. And he says that many meditation books talk about the 7-point posture of the Buddha Vajrayana, and we've done this before. So first of all, we cross the legs. If you can't do that, then you can sit in a chair with your legs on the floor. You want to have a chair that has a relatively straight back, or a cushion behind you to sort of get your, the spine straight. He says, then we put our right hand in the left hand, with both palms up and the 2 thumbs touching. That's the second point. Third, we keep our back or our spine straight. Fourth, we straighten our shoulders. Sometimes we'll have a tendency to slump. We want to straighten the shoulders. This all has to do with the energy flow in the channels, the energy in the winds in the channels. Fifth, our chin is slightly tucked in so that the back of our neck is straightened, rather than the back of the neck being crooked. We tilt the chin until we feel that the back of our neck is actually straight and aligned with the rest of the spine, as much as possible. Sixth, our eyes gaze downward toward the tip of the nose. He says some people close their eyes, but this is not good, because when we close our eyes, darkness appears in our mind. And he's saying we don't want that. We won't see the clarity of the object, which is the clarity of the mind. So we want to keep the eyes open. And he suggests you sort of keep them partially opened, and just sort of staring down. They'll say towards the tip of your nose, but where that brings you is you're sort of staring down to the floor beneath you. So you don't want to have. It would be nice if it's not too busy down there on the floor, whatever you've got going on there, so that it's not distracting to you. But he says what eventually happens is that the eyes will eventually, when you get into meditation and your eyes are sort of half open like this, you begin to not even notice what the eyes are seeing, and you're really focused on what's happening within the mind itself. So he says it's important to do that, to keep it that way. All right, that was the 6th one. With the 7th point of the meditation posture, we touch our tongue to the upper palate of the mouth, just behind the front teeth. Again, always keep and then breathe normally. Always keep the eyes half closed, not completely closed, in order to stop darkness from appearing in our mind. He says when we keep our spine straight, then our chakras are very straight and aligned. And this is what we want to do. We want to keep the chakras straight and aligned during meditation. This enables the wind energy, which is called prana in Sanskrit and lung in Tibetan. It enables that wind energy to run through the channels and the chakras and flow properly. It enables it to circulate through our nervous system. The blood circulates properly. And through that alignment, the mind is always, he said, the mind is always mounted on the chakras, because what they say is the mind rides the winds. We think of the mind like it's up here, like somewhere in our brain. And no. The mind is throughout the entire energetic system of what we are. And that mind is riding on these winds that flow through these channels and chakras. And if the channels and chakras are crumped up or crinkled or not in alignment properly, then it blocks the flow of the mind. So he says if we can get into this proper posture, then the mind is properly riding the winds and is mounted like a horse on a rider, mounted, or a rider on a horse, mounted on the chakras. This is how he put it. So this is extremely important, the posture, more important than maybe some of us thought. So he says, the posture is very important, so I'm sharing this information with you before we start the teaching. So now he goes into his teaching on the reign of accomplishments and the 4 mindfulnesses. This text talks about the 4 mindfulnesses, which are the mindfulness of one's guru, the mindfulness of cherishing and having compassion for sentient beings, the mindfulness of seeing one's body as a divine body, and the mindfulness of emptiness, the mindfulness of emptiness. And he says these first 3, the mindfulness of the guru, the mindfulness of sentient beings, the mindfulness of seeing one's body as a divine body, these are preliminaries. The actual meditation that we're doing is the mindfulness on emptiness. This is the most important thing. To have a direct realization of emptiness is the key to liberation from all of our suffering. And it's also the key to the immeasurable joy of achieving enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. So this emptiness part is where this is all leading toward. And we have to develop this compassion, love and compassion for sentient beings. We have to rely on the guru properly. And then when he talks about seeing our body as a divine body, he's talking about the tantric process, which helps us to move more quickly to this level of achieving a realization of emptiness. All right, to do the meditation on emptiness, we actualize the subtle level of mind, the subtle level of the wisdom of emptiness. To actualize the subtle level of mind, first of all, we train in the mindfulness which sees our body as a divine body. This kind of mindfulness invokes a method which is related to tantric practice. Most of our students have not received initiations or empowerments related with Tantra, so I'm not allowed to explain each and every thing. So when we talk about the mindfulness of our body as a divine body, I'll just give a little bit of meditation about this, but not in detail. The mindfulness of one's body as a divine body involves a method which helps us manifest our subtle level of mind. Through that practice, we peel off or cleanse our gross level of mind, including our deluded mind, to uncover the subtle level of mind which understands the nature of reality. If we can achieve that subtle level of wisdom which understands the nature of reality, we can meditate through that mind. This is how we counteract the subtle imprint or propensity which is left on our mental continuum by the grasping at self and other. As long as the propensity or imprint of grasping at self and other as being 2 distinct things, and that's within our mental continuum, there is no way to achieve enlightenment. As long as we have that grasping, that dualistic grasping of self and other, there is no way we are going to achieve enlightenment. This propensity is the very strongest propensity we have. As we've said before, this propensity is how samsara arises. It has to do with this ego, self-grasping, the self-cherishing, me, mine, and that which is not me or mine. This is a very dualistic view, which is not based in reality. And so this is what the tantric practice helps one to do, is to bring that subtle level of mind to a point where you begin to understand what is being talked about with non-duality. The way to achieve that subtle level of wisdom can only be done using some form of practice related with Tantra. The Tantrayana method, which is also known as the Vajrayana or the Mantrayana method, is what we're talking about. He says you cannot achieve this subtle level of wisdom through the Sutrayana method. Just studying the sutras say of the when we talk about the Lam Rim, we have the initial scope, the intermediate scope, and the highest scope. If you are simply studying the initial scope and the intermediate scope, which would be mainly what we call the Sutra or the Theravada, Hinayana, some parts of the Mahayana are also this initial scope and intermediate scope. That will not get you to enlightenment. It's the higher scope, which goes into the tantric methods, which all of that is it all has to be done. It all has to be traversed in order to get to that higher point. But what he's saying is we won't achieve that level of wisdom without the tantric practice. On top of that, the wisdom which understands the empty nature of reality becomes the Mahayana path. It becomes the higher scope of the Mahayana. Because we need unconditional love and bodhicitta to actualize that wisdom. If we do not have, see what this is getting at, because if things actually exist in a non-dual fashion, then if we have situations where we like, I hate that person, I can't stand them, all right, whatever it may be, we all know it. Is a very dualistic view which does not engender love and compassion and generosity and embracing. So what we have to learn how to do, and tantric practice is very good for this, you have to learn how to embrace the things that you would think of being dark. Your dark side, your bad, the issues that we all want to project onto everything else and blame them for. This is all our own. Everything that appears to us is our karmic appearance. It's us. It's how things are appearing to us. And we have to transform that. And as long as we think we have this solid reality where it's me and everything else, we're going to wind up pushing it away from me and blaming everybody else, where it's actually, it's not that way at all. So this is kind of what this is getting at, and what the tantric practice can help us over time to begin to see. All right. On top of that, On top of that, the empty nature of reality becomes the Mahayana path because we need unconditional love and bodhicitta, the wish to become enlightened for the benefit of all beings, in order to be able to actualize the wisdom that understands emptiness. So this is related to the second mindfulness, which is the mindfulness of loving and cherishing other sentient beings. This is super important. And not just the ones that make us feel good. All of them.
Yeah, the one.
All of them who are triggering these karmic appearances we have in our mental continuum. What are we going to do with those? How are we going to turn that around? How are we going to learn how to love everyone and everything? This is the path. It's an amazing thing to me, really. So this involves all of the preliminary practices and how to achieve great compassion and bodhicitta. And he says he will talk about this later. So now he goes to the mindfulness of one's guru. This is the first mindfulness. He talked about this. He talked about the mindfulness of seeing your body as a divine body, because I think I haven't gotten into, I don't know if he goes into this further, but what he was saying is because it's a tantric practice, there's only so much you can say, but he wanted to let us know the importance of that. So now we go back to this, the first mindfulness, the mindfulness of the guru. And he says this is really important. It is the door to the Lam Rim. And as many of you know, Lam Rim means stages of the path. And like I said, there are 3 scopes. We have an initial scope, an intermediate scope, and a higher scope. The initial scope is all you want to do with that initial scope is get a better human rebirth so that you can continue on the path. And so there are practices, ethics basically, in order to get you to a better human rebirth. Then you have the intermediate scope where you start developing bodhicitta and the wish to become enlightened, and there are practices for that. Then you get to the higher scope where you actually get into the practice of exchanging self with others, talking about emptiness, all of this. So it's really important. And this is the guru is the door to the Lam Rim, the door to the practices of the Lam Rim. And all the stages of the complete path to enlightenment as they were taught by the Buddha. In this degenerate time that we have going on, the Buddha has already passed away. So there's no past Buddha that we can meet directly person to person right now. We don't have the karma to meet the Buddha in person. Our guru serves as the connection between ourselves and the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and bodhisattvas who have achieved high levels of realization. We can't see those highly realized beings in this lifetime. To help us receive their blessings and transmissions, the guru serves as our connecting bridge to the Buddhas and bodhisattvas, and through our own guru, then we receive blessings, teachings, and transmissions of the Buddhas and the bodhisattvas. So the first mindfulness is related to one's guru. With this first mindfulness, we begin by trying to understand how we can rely, how do we rely on the guru? And we do this in 2 ways. We do it in our thought and we do it in our actions. In Tantrayana, the Guru Vajradhara is the emanation of the Buddha in wrathful form. So as some of you are familiar, we talked about the refuge visualization, and you have Chenrezig, Shakyamuni Buddha, Manjushri, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Behind Shakyamuni is Vajradhara. And we've talked about Vajradhara as being the primordial Buddha, the Buddha that we all have the potential to become. But Vajradhara is the holder of the Tantrayanic path, the Vajrayana path, the Mantrayana path. All of these tantric deities come out of Vajradhara. So when we do the refuge visualization, Vajrasattva comes out of Vajradhara. The Vajra means it's very strong, like a diamond, very strong, unbreakable. It will cut through anything. And this is the Vajrayana path. So there are what you would call wrathful deities in Tantrayana or Vajrayana. Wrathful deities, and the wrath is that they're cutting through our delusions. They're destroying our misconceptions. They're cutting through our ego self-grasping. This is the wrath. It's not against somebody else. It's against our own delusions, the things that are causing all of our problems. That's what the Vajrayana path is about. So Vajradhara can manifest as a very wrathful, as wrathful deities. There are many wrathful deities within Vajrayana. Yamantaka is one that comes to mind. According to the Sutrayana, Shakyamuni is an emanation of the Buddha in the robes of a monk and very, very peaceful. In Tantrayana, Buddha Shakyamuni transforms into the wrathful deity called Vajradhara, or alternately Vajrasattva. Now, normally we're not thinking of Vajradhara and Vajrasattva as being wrathful, but they have a wrathful aspect. And when we're doing a purification practice with Vajrasattva, that is destroying our negative imprints. We're destroying our negative imprints. According to Tantrayana, Vajradhara and Vajrasattva are the same. Vajradhara said, "In the future, I will come in the form of the Guru. At that time, I cannot help sentient beings in the form of a Buddha, but I will appear in the form of the Guru who can help protect sentient beings from their suffering. I will come in many, many forms, and in that way, I will help sentient beings." The Buddha always said that the main purpose of becoming a Buddha is to help sentient beings over eons and eons of time. The Buddha's words are true, and authentic. So in this current degenerate time, if we look for a Buddha, we can't find any Buddha. So we can conclude, for example, that His Holiness the Dalai Lama or other great lamas can be considered as Buddhas who serve and officiate for the Buddha himself, sort of like official emissaries. Because the Buddha came to this world and taught many sentient beings, a sentient being could hear the Buddha's teachings, think about them, contemplate them, and finally achieve realizations. Through that process, a sentient being could achieve the happiness of this life, the happiness of the next life, the happiness of liberation, and the happiness of the fully enlightened state of mind. In the same way, if we rely upon our root guru properly in thought and action, as the authentic texts explain, and we hear the teachings, think about them, then contemplate them, and finally achieve genuine realizations through that process of transmission, then we can consider our root guru as the Buddha. When the Buddha appeared in this world, he helped sentient beings through his teaching. There is no other way to liberate sentient beings but through the teaching. I've said many times, if Buddha could have waved a magic wand, it would have happened already. There is no other way but for each one of us to actualize these teachings. So we can consider then our guru as the Buddha. There is no Buddha other than the guru. There is no guru other than the Buddha. The Buddha and guru are the same entity because it's their teaching the Dharma, which is what the Buddha did. We are getting that teaching from that lineage.
Right.
This is how this was one of the very first points that was very difficult for me is, how do I say the guru as the Buddha? How do I do that? But when you actually realize what it is that transforms us are the authentic teachings, and we're getting those authentic teachings from a lineage of these gurus, then it's as if it was the Buddha. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I'd like to give just, I guess
I don't know if the online folks can hear me, but if you contemplate the nature of our situation as unenlightened sentient beings and use the metaphor of, they use often the ocean of samsara. So without any mechanisms to leading you to liberation or enlightenment, you're essentially perpetually adrift in the currents of samsara. And the only thing that actually matters in terms of this human lifetime that we have is the only thing that makes it a precious human rebirth is to meet a guru, a teacher. Without that, all you are is merely as a human who's continuously adrift in the ocean of samsara as a sentient being. So this is a very, very important in my experience, it's very important to recognize that there's really just two kinds of existence for a sentient being. There's a samsaric existence where you have absolutely nothing other than going with the currents of the samsaric mode, or you're part of the movement towards liberation and subsequently enlightenment. And the only way you can become part of that movement is to have, they use the term, have a teacher hook you. And it may not be, the teacher can manifest as a book or a movie or as something or a person or it doesn't have to be a Buddhist monk, just to be clear. But until one in this lifetime or any lifetime, in any realm of existence, any type of being on any planet, until a sentient being encounters that one difference, a teacher, then one is merely adrift in samsara. And then I just, then you can see then the importance of listening to every word they say. They say like a deer listening in the forest, because here you are suddenly, having been adrift since beginningless time, suddenly there's a trajectory. There's a pathway opens in front of you to something, a meaningful existence. Anyway.
No, that's perfectly put. That point is perfectly put. This is what he's saying: is that it's the Dharma, it's the information, it's the teaching, and if we don't have that, just like you said, we are just adrift, being pushed and pulled by our habits and propensities, and what's going on in the world, and what's happening with my friends, and what's going on with my health, and blah blah blah. We're just pulled back and forth, and without this information and somebody to give it to us in an authentic way, we are lost, and we will continue to be lost in this sea, cycle and cycling and cycling and cycling. You're right, absolutely. I think this is what he's saying, and you're putting it from the point of view of one like us who are caught in this. We can truly feel this, and we can truly, you and I, truly can feel the difference from the time that we first met the Dharma to now. We can see the change that has occurred. We can see that it's having an effect on our mind. And I think anybody would say that who is stuck with the Dharma, they will see, wow, this is really having an effect.
Talking almost more on a more existential level, just, does my existence in this or any lifetime, in this or any form, does my existence have any productive purpose? Or is it merely aimless wandering, following, attachment and aversion?
Mm-hmm. Right, as whatever kind of being you are, right.
So that's the distinction, and that's why this particular mindfulness is. I mean, I almost would say, any of us who have found any kind of teacher that leads us, it could be a karate or an aikido teacher,
right?
Any path. I mean, that's the most important thing that ever happened to you in that lifetime. We could debate this later, but that is the only thing that will have happened to you in that lifetime that actually adds up to anything in terms of the rest of your never-ending existence.
Yeah, there were two things, actually. And Geshe Lobsang Nima pointed this out. One of them is that we actually, that our mother and father provided the means by which we have a human life.
Yeah,
and we should be,
that
we have that.
Perpetual existence in any form, whether or not it's a physical body.
But right now we've hit the jackpot.
No.
And so this is, and to take advantage of it now is the whole purpose. To not let it, to not waste it, to not let it go, to not get distracted by all these other things that distract us all the time. This is very, very important. That meditation that we did on the mind, clarity of the mind, and not letting the past and the future come in and staying aware, Geshe Draka is saying we do this every morning when we wake up. Every morning when we wake up. Because the mind is at its most subtle at that point. So this is something we should just, if we don't practice, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. If we do not practice, we will not create new habits, and our old habits will just, like a bulldozer, run over everything. And we won't be able to stop it. We have to do something to stop it and turn it around. We have to change. We have to do these practices. So he's given us plenty of practices this time around. In some Tibetan refuge textbooks, we recite Namo Guru, Namo Buddha, Namo Dharma, Namo Sangha. In others, we recite Namo Buddha, Namo Dharma, Namo Sangha. There is no contradiction between these two. There's no contradiction, in other words, between saying I take refuge in the Guru, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, or I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, because the Guru and the Buddha are one entity. That's the point. There is no Guru other than the Buddha. The Buddha is not other than the Guru. In this degenerate time, we get all of the Buddha's blessings or transmissions through the Guru. If there is no Guru, there is no activity of the Buddha. We should understand that the Buddha's activities are disseminated without interruption as long as our Guru's teachings are authentic and reliable. Many teachings express that the activities of the Buddha are uninterrupted and unending. This is a true and reliable teaching. However, if we don't consider the activities of our guru as the Buddha's activities, then we won't find any activities of the Buddha or highly realized bodhisattvas. There are none other to be found than from the guru. In this way, we can understand that all the activities of our guru are the activities of the Buddha and highly realized bodhisattvas. Through that, we can get close to our guru. When we get closer to our guru, we get closer to the highly realized bodhisattvas. When we get close to the highly realized bodhisattvas, we get close to the Buddha. And I would say Geshe Nima is very skilled at doing this, at generating a closeness between himself and you. Some of you may have noticed when he's teaching, he will just all of a sudden look directly into your eyes, look directly into your eyes, look directly into your eyes. He is connecting with you. He's getting close to you. And I can definitely feel that from him. There is a desire on his part to get close to us. He wants to help us. It's a wonderful thing. There is not an ounce of ego I find there. It's simply wanting to help. And it feels very, very genuine to me. And it's just like, it's so amazing. So and you know, this particular teaching is the very first one. Sometimes I have it at the last, but all of our teachers this is the very first point of the Lamrim is the guru. If you cannot, you know, if none of the rest of the path is going to work if you don't have reliance on that guru in the proper way. You know? So even when you have a guru who can be quite wrathful, like for instance, Venerable Robina, she can be quite wrathful, quite angry, but she is only trying to help you. She is always only trying to help you. And she's using very skillful ways for you at that time that are going to shake your boat and wake you up. And you need that. This is why they're saying there's these wrathful kinds of Buddhas. And there's a place for them because sometimes we need a slap across the face. We really do. You know, our egos are so big, so strong that we need that. And we should always see that when it's coming from the person that we have put our trust in as our guru, and they act wrathfully towards us. We should always see that as a blessing. Oh boy, they really know that I could be helped, and they are really trying to help me in the way that's going to work for me. And it's an amazing thing when you can do that. It would be, but it would also be nice if every teacher was like this. Yeah. You know, just the selfless, doing nothing, wanting nothing more than to help every student better their lives, and have the tools to do it.
As we clear up our own contaminated view of things, it will be like that.
Yeah, be wonderful.
The problem is not out there.
Yeah. So now he talks about he talked about a few examples of gurus and their students. And the first one he gave was Naropa and the guru Tilopa. At the present time, we can't see the Buddha directly because of our negative karma and negative propensities, which obstruct our seeing the Buddhas or bodhisattvas for who they are. There are many stories about this in religious history. For example, the Indian Pandit Naropa, when he was searching to find the guru Tilopa, saw Tilopa as a fisherman who was roasting fresh fish in a fire and eating them. Actually, I was reading more about this, and Tilopa would just bite their heads off. Naropa thought to himself, is this the guru Tilopa that I'm looking for or not? If this is Tilopa, he would never eat fresh fish roasted alive in the fire like this. He would never do that. At that moment, Tilopa shook his head and said to Naropa, I am not your guru. And Naropa thought, oh, this is my guru because he knows exactly what I'm thinking. And then Naropa became Tilopa's disciple. Then he gives the example of Milarepa and the guru Marpa Lotsawa. Another example is Milarepa, the Tibetan Siddha. Siddha is one who is accomplished. who was famously known as a murderer when he was a young man before turning to Buddhism. Milarepa had left his village in search of the guru Marpa Lotsawa. Lotsawa is a Tibetan word for translator. When he reached Marpa's house, Milarepa found Marpa in a field where he had been plowing. In Milarepa's eyes, Marpa appeared as if he had been drinking alcohol and was lying in the field drunk and asleep. Milarepa did not see Marpa as a holy man due to his own negative karma. Then he talked about the guru Ra Lotsawa. Ra was also a translator. There's the example of Ra Lotsawa, the Tibetan translator and skilled yogi who relied upon the wrathful tantric deity Yamantaka. Ra Lotsawa was very, very great and popular. One day he went into a field and threw a rope up into the air and caused all the birds to fall down from the sky as if they were dead on the ground. Many people criticized this and thought to themselves, this is a brutal and very bad man, a killer. Ra Lotsawa knew their thoughts, and he shook his head up and down and said, yes, I am a killer. The people then appreciated that he understood their minds, thinking, oh, he understands our minds. This must be a very great being. At which point, Ra Lotsawa raised his hand in an upward gesture, and all the birds then flew back up into the sky. So when we see the guru with oh, by the way, that story may sound fantastic to you, but you should have heard some of the stories Geshe Drapa told us, when he was not even in Tibet, in India with his uncle who, the things that they could do. I mean, you just go, wow, that can't be. And he was totally serious. So what I would say is, depending on our limitations, what we think is real, what we think should be, we will not allow ourselves to open up and see that there are other possibilities. Right. One of the great things that is happening right now, say with quantum physics and as we're going to neuroscience, scientists are now beginning to understand things don't work the way we actually think they do. And if you knew how to manipulate that energy, then you could probably do things like throw a rope up in the air and the birds would fly down. It's not what we think it is, in other words. It's not the way things appear to us, as quantum physics has proven, is not the way we think it is. So that just is opening the door now to a different view. And hopefully we will, the world will continue opening the door. Mm-hmm. We'll go into a better time, not less degenerate. So when we see the guru with a negative appearance in our mind, this is not the guru's fault. Not the guru's fault. This is due to our karmic appearance. Our appearance is uncertain. Sometimes when we interact or encounter another person, although that person may be innocent and very honest, due to our angry attitude, we are happy to see them as not good, dishonest, unreliable, and so on. They're great. We can throw all of our problems onto them. It's their fault. This attitude is caused by our own self-centeredness and superstitious ignorance of the nature of reality. Whatever appears in our mind is due to our own thinking, whether positive or negative. Our own positive or negative propensities. So we can't say whatever appears in our mind is certain. We should not judge this is good and that is bad. That goes back to the meditation. Don't judge what you're thinking, remembering, or imagining for the future as good or bad, especially about yourself and especially about others. Don't judge it, just watch it. We should train in this way so that finally whatever appears in our mind is a purified perception. We cannot judge something by how it appears in our mind. What we should judge is our own way of thinking, our own way of looking at the outside world. This, I think, is very important. Let's see where we're at. Okay. The Reign of Accomplishments text begins with the mindfulness of one's guru. The state of a guru is achieved through training in the path of wisdom and method. Training in the wisdom and method path is the way in which a person reaches the state or level of a guru. To be a real guru means that one can lead their disciples or sentient beings beyond suffering and beyond ordinary appearances, which means leading them to liberation and the fully enlightened state of mind. So that is what the guru is. Guru is an Indian Sanskrit word which means heavy, heavy with good qualities is how it's termed. This accords with the Tibetan word Lama, which means one who has unsurpassable, supreme qualities. It refers to someone who has achieved the special ability that leads suffering beings beyond the causes of suffering and therefore beyond suffering itself. This is the definition of the Lama. So where does the Lama come from? The Lama comes from training in perfect wisdom and perfect method. Perfect wisdom is the wisdom that realizes emptiness. And perfect method is the unconditional love and compassion of bodhicitta. So these two are combined. The perfect method is the unconditional love and great compassion through which wisdom is expressed. And as I said, sometimes it can be expressed by our guru in a wrathful way because that's what's going to help us at that point. Sometimes it can be expressed in a very soothing, gentle, loving way because that's what we need at that point. So we should never judge how our guru is behaving. We should always go, this is for my benefit here, and turn it back into our own mind. So now he's having us go through a little a visualization. Now imagine in the space in front of you a great lotus of light, like a throne. At the center of the lotus, there's a flat sun disk of red light. The red sun disk represents the wisdom of emptiness. Resting on top of the sun disk, there is a flat moon disk made of white light. That flat moon disk represents the unconditional love of bodhicitta. We imagine that our guru is seated on those two disks at the center of the lotus. The sun and the moon disks beneath the guru represent the union of method and wisdom paths. This transmission is connected to Manjushri. So our guru, who is at the center of the lotus, is actually our own guru, but is visualized or imagined in the form of Manjushri. You remember Manjushri has the sword over his head, and he has the lotus coming from his heart, and at his left ear it opens up and there's a book of the Heart Sutra, the Emptiness Sutra. So imagine your guru in the form of Manjushri. Above our guru is Lama Tsongkhapa, who is also visualized in the form of Manjushri. Above Lama Tsongkhapa is Manjushri himself. And above Manjushri himself is Vajradhara, who is also visualized in the form of Manjushri. So from the top down is Vajradhara to Manjushri, then Manjushri to Lama Tsongkhapa, then Lama Tsongkhapa to our guru. Or, if you don't have a guru, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. You can consider His Holiness the Dalai Lama as your guru as well, because he is the teacher of all of our gurus. They all take the form of Manjushri, and their hearts connect to us all through our guru. In the morning when we wake up, we visualize this and then meditate on the conventional clarity of the mind that we talked about earlier. So, what he's saying is, first thing when we get up, we visualize this lotus of light, the red sun disk, the white moon disk, the guru on top in the form of Manjushri, and then the other Manjushris above that. When we visualize that, and we visualize that they are connecting to us. All of their love, all of that wisdom, all of that benefit is connecting to us through the heart of the guru. And after we visualize this and have a feeling, then go into this meditation on the conventional clarity of the mind. Just keep focused on the ever-present moment of clarity and awareness, And anything that comes in, thoughts from the past, any thoughts of the future, you just observe them, be aware of them, let them go, and keep building up that focus. And over time, especially if we do the practices that he's recommending, this will get clearer and clearer for us, and that meditation will get more and more strong. But we have to do it. It won't happen if we don't do it. It won't happen if we don't practice it. He's giving us practices. It's our job to practice them. So I'm saying here now, do it. Because if we want the benefit, if we want to be happy, do it. I mean, Geshe Nima has no other ulterior motive but to help us.
Right.
The Buddha has no other ulterior motive but to help us. In the morning, after we've completed that meditation, then we offer the 7-limb prayer and the world mandala from our heart to our Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Then we supplicate from our heart 3 times with the following prayers. So he's going to go over this, but you all are familiar with, the 7-limb prayer. We recite this before our classes. This is a practice that we can do, and he's going to go through that. But now he's giving a prayer that we say 3 times. And here it is. Please, my Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, stay with me and bless me. Help me to eliminate all my negativity, including disrespect and distrust toward my Guru, and grasping at self and phenomena, including the self-centered attitude. That's the first. Here's the second. Please, my Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, stay with me and bless me. Help me to achieve all good qualities, including respect and unshakable faith in my Guru, until I attain the post-enlightened state of mind. And here's the third. Please, my Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, bless me and help me to clear away all obstacles that hinder the achievement of my goals in this life and the next until I attain Buddhahood. So what he's saying is, when we wake up in the morning, we do that visualization of the Manjushri Buddhas. Then we do the meditation on the clarity of the conventional clarity of the mind. Then we do the 7-limb practice. And then at the end of the 7-limb practice, there is where you make supplications to your Guru. These are the supplications to the Guru that he's talking about. These are 3 prayers which we should do in our day-to-day life. When we try to meditate or practice, we sometimes fail to do as our teachers or texts have advised us, and sometimes we become hopeless. And many of us feel this way. We know this. We've experienced this. We think, I've tried to do this or that, but my practice hasn't improved. It's not working. This is not the fault of the teacher or the text or the transmission. This is due to our own lack of accumulation of merit. So in order to extend our accumulation of merit, we say these 3 prayers again and again. When we are offering the world mandala, we imagine all of the virtues we have accumulated in the past. We imagine those virtues in the form of flowers or many other beautiful things which we offer to the Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. This is one way of accumulating merit. Another way of accumulating merit is through practicing the steps outlined in the 7-limb prayer. 1, making prostrations. 2, offerings. And 3, purifying all of our negative karma through the 4 opponent powers. We've gone through all of this. There are recordings of this that you can follow that are posted in most of the emails. I'll post them again. And then we rejoice in the merits of others. When other people do good things, we appreciate that. Sometimes instead of appreciating, we just feel jealousy. Some people help those who are poor or support members of the community in other ways, but instead of appreciating that and admiring them, we just criticize. This is due to some sort of unhealthy competition or jealousy. Those kinds of feelings are like thorns in our mind and always make us unhappy. Instead of doing that, we should always rejoice in the people who support the poor or who support the community or this kind of thing. So rejoice. If we rejoice, it multiplies our own virtues. This is very important. It doesn't require much energy on our part. If we appreciate others, we get the same amount of virtue the other people do. If other people do good, we appreciate them and rejoice. We rejoice in all the great lamas and the great people who work for the community or for other beings and so on. This goes back to this idea of non-duality and subject and object, and that everything is our karmic appearance. So if we are constantly criticizing, what we're doing is we're poisoning our mind stream. It is our appearance that we're criticizing. What we need to do is turn that around, and we find all of the good, the things that we should enjoy. We find things that we should appreciate about others. As we do this, and we continue to do this, and we practice doing this, it'll get more and more familiar with us, and we will start removing the poison from our mind stream and creating positive imprints. This is how this non-duality thing works. Everything that appears to us is appearing to us in our mind. That is true. And so what do we want to do to our mind? Do we want to poison it, or do we want to purify it? And by criticizing others, by finding fault in others, by being jealous of others, by hating, being angry, we are poisoning our own mind. So this is something we, as Dharma practitioners, we have to very, very seriously think about this. This is huge. And this is a practice which we need to do on a daily basis. Otherwise, it won't happen. We will just fall back to our old habits and lose many of the gains we've made. If through, then with the fifth branch, we supplicate all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to live long for the Buddha Dharma and for sentient beings, for world peace and so on. Then the sixth limb, we request all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to teach and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. And finally, the seventh limb, whatever positive things you have done, you dedicate the merit of that for the benefit of all sentient beings. So it's like you dedicate it into the collection of beings in front of you, all of your merit that you've gained. And it's all for the benefit of all sentient beings, because it's all our karmic appearance. So this is called the seven limb practice. Through this practice, we can accrue or increase our own merit. And what it's saying is, our meditation practice is going to get stronger and stronger as we increase this merit, because our mind is going to be more in line with the nature of reality, that everything is interconnected, is interdependent. We don't want to be hurting ourselves. We don't want to be hurting or criticizing or finding fault with those parts of ourselves. We have to sort of heal the whole thing. And as we do, our meditation practice will get stronger and stronger and stronger, because it's simply in alignment. We are being in alignment with the nature of the way things actually are. So if through repeatedly practicing the seven limbs, we develop a strong amount of merit, then when we engage in meditation practice, we can get realizations as the texts and transmissions and teachers have explained. If we lack an accumulation of merit, then whatever effort we make in meditation, our mind will always be distracted. According to the texts, we don't have enough merit to achieve realizations. This is very important. When we do the Lamrim practice, many teachers advise us to start by relying on one's guru until we achieve the last of the 6 paramitas or perfections, the perfection of wisdom. With each level of this kind of practice, the Lamrim practice, we meditate on each Lamrim step. If we find we're having trouble making progress and achieving realizations in the Lamrim, instead of continuing with the Lamrim, we go back to focusing our energy on society, community, our friends, our family, and accumulating merit, helping others, thinking of them kindly, seeing them as purified, making prostrations, saying mantras, and so on. You do all of that stuff. There are many, many, many ways of accumulating. Do the seven limb practice. Then we come back to our meditation practice and continue on. Accumulation of merit is very important to improve our own realization and improve our own spiritual power. So we'll leave it there. And so any discussions or comments or observations about any of this, even in one's own experience?
when I meditate, I do have my eyes open, like they say, and eventually it all just disappears.
Right.
You just don't see it anymore. Whatever is out there, you just see the clarity of it. And I feel calm, feel centered, when I do the rest of the practice, the visualizations, again, it keeps my mind kind of, I don't know, I'm just, just in line.
Yeah.
I get really frustrated when I don't have the time, find the time, make the time to get that meditation in. When I wake up, that's what I want to do. And the minute I leave my bedroom, I'm pulled in 5 different directions. And it's like, it drives me up the wall because I don't want to do any of it. I want to be still. And I don't have that opportunity all the time.
Yeah.
So
that's a huge.
It's finding that space if you want to do it first thing, and then if you can't, and then try to find that space sometime in the day, then grab it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't do it, it's
I think being open to at any time of the day, sometimes in the morning, my mind is so fuzzy. I'm just like,
right.
So I'll go to the visualizations, which is easy, really very easy for me to do.
Right.
I think we all have our own good points, and things that we can key into immediately.
Yeah.
Sometimes if my mind is like, looking through linoleum, I will go to a visualization.
So when you do the visualizations and they're easy for you to do, what's that experience of for you?
I
What's it like?
settle in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to worry about my mind making a shopping list.
Right.
Because it's focused
or
on
going to something that happened when I was 10.
Right.
Which is always, when we were doing it just now, I mean, I was like, oh my goodness, what's going on? I only have 5 minutes and I'm already, within 60 seconds, I'm somewhere else, but not here,
Right. Well, it's so common.
And I've learned to accept it and to work on it, but not get, ruin my day because of it.
Right.
And I think some people can be a little.
So my question is, with the visualization, what are you imagining it in your mind?
Yeah. If anything, Buddha's in front of me, the merit field's in front of me, or I go right to Geshe La as Manjushri, and then Manjushri or the Dalai Lama, and Vajrasattva,
Right.
And then and that I find very comforting. And so when I'm doing anything outside or whatever, that's in front of me.
That's actually, that you can see the
keeps me, and I'm Tayatao Muni Muni Mahamuni Swaha. I mean, that's something, a mantra I found very easy to. It's very comforting.
Yeah.
Well, those things also help us focus and keep us from getting distracted.
Yeah.
Right.
If we're actually focusing on an image, right, just imagining it, right. And when I'm doing those visualizations, I actually close my eyes, because it's different than if I'm meditating where I'm not supposed to be visualizing something.
Right.
But I actually close my eyes, and I get I don't see things like a movie or a picture or anything, but I have active imagination, and I can feel it, and imagine it. And so that actually is a type of concentration. It's a type of focus meditation. It keeps all of the other distractions at bay, and you're focusing on something that's actually quite virtuous and helpful and beneficial. So those practices are really, really good, especially for those of us who are beginners, who haven't had these realizations.
I always reflect that if we could die any minute, that, if anything, that's all I want on my mind.
Right.
Is the visualization, and that's
that's a good enough reason to practice it.
Well, I mean, it is, and that's why I'm here. So.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I may not intellectualize everything I hear.
Right.
Maybe take me 20 years, and then clunk.
Right.
But that's fine. Exactly.
Yeah, yes, we do. We hear it takes.
I'm actually not hope. I'm not trying to be pessimistic.
Right.
Although we don't really know how many lifetimes we've already put into something like this. So it just could be that, you know, once we hit a certain point, it's going to be like,
Yeah.
and you know, I like to think that way. So my plan is to just continue doing this because I don't want to lose this information,
No.
and it would have just gone out of our heads,
Yeah.
especially since he didn't want us to post the video.
Right.
So maybe he didn't want us to post the video, so we would do this.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. I'm sure it's not. It's
You know.
kind of like a little sneaky.
No. So, or could it be one of the reasons?
Well, and we asked him, and he said that we could, because we were going to be out of town. So he said we could record for us
Yeah.
Us.
Yeah.
for review.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's us.
Yeah.
But what I will say is it's really good to do this and get it done in writing.
Yeah.
It's not all that easy to pick up some of the things he's saying because of his
His
accent.
language.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. So it's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found this time his English. I didn't have that much trouble.
Right.
Right.
It was like, whoa.
I'm understanding what he's saying.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Translation is I'm understanding.
Yeah,
And half the time that's half the battle.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do the dedication prayers. Dedication of merit underneath the mandala offering. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that we may liberate all sentient beings from suffering. Do we want to do this in Tibetan or English?
Either one.
Let's do Tibetan with the song. Jang chub sem chog rinpoche ma kye panam kye gyur chi kye panyam pa me pa yang gong ne gong du el war shu tong ye tawa rinpoche ma kye panam Kye gyur chi kye panyam pa me pa yang gong ne gong du per war shu. So that was for bodhicitta and emptiness, and let's go to let's do the prayer for the long life of His Holiness. Recently I heard he said he's going to live to be 118. So
Go for it.
let's go for it, because if he's going to do it,
I'm
going to do it.
I'm gonna do it.
In the snowy mountain paradise, you're the source of all goodness and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezi, may you stay until samsara ends. And really think of it, the only reason we have this Dharma right now is because of him.
Yeah.
The only reason the teachers that we have come here is because of him.
Yeah.
And you know, I think I have to thank karma and even thank the Chinese communist state, because if they had not come in, despite all of the tragedy and all of the intense suffering involved in that, it brought this lineage in Tibetan Buddhism to the world, and we're the beneficiaries of that.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dalai Lama. And then the final dedication. We'll sing this in the song too. We just don't want to be separated from lamas for as long as we're going. Kiewa kundu yandag lama dang dreme cheki pala long choching sadang lam ki onten ragzogne Dorje changi gopang yurtu shu. So I will be posting these videos, and I will be posting these study guides and for however long it takes. And then after that, we'll get back to Nagarjuna forever, how long that takes. Okay.
Take the take, right?
It takes what it takes, and boom, then you're in line. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good seeing you. Okay.
Great.
Over and out. Let's see.